Going back to no fault divorce or Title 4D, Section 8, and these problems that we're seeing now, do you think that originally they were meant to be good things, that people were doing this with good intentions? Or do you think they knew kind of what the snowball that was going to follow afterwards when they initially put it in?
They knew. They knew all along. Many people in the state legislatures and the government legislatures in other countries were probably hoodwinked. But the people who, as I say, the feminist bar associations were drafting no fault divorce laws back in the 1940s, and they said they knew exactly what it was all about, and they were looking for an opportunity to push it through. They got it through with the sexual revolution of the late 60s and 70s. That's how they got it through. Nobody was paying attention. People were, obsessed with civil rights and Vietnam, and the sexual revolution was, acculturating everybody to sexual experimentation. So they got it through. Reagan signed the bill without having any idea what it was about. Other state legislatures, I think, were hoodwinked. A friend of mine did in fact, right there in Texas. A lawyer I know launched a lawsuit claiming that the law was pushed through the Texas legislature under false pretenses. That they were pushed it through with the idea that it was mutual consent. It was divorce by mutual consent. And this is why Texas State House legislators passed it with that understanding. They either didn't know or willfully, ignored the fact that it was not divorce by mutual consent. It was unilateral divorce. It was involuntary divorce. It was basically what Maggie Gallagher called the abolition of marriage, because one partner could unilaterally divorce without any grounds whatsoever, without any legal basis. So I think that's what happened in many state governments and national governments. They passed it without knowing what it was, or without bothering to check. There were a few voices, even among judges and lawyers, there were a few voices who said, this is madness, you can't do this. It's completely contrary to the common law system, which has protected our rights since the days of Magna Carta. And this just overthrows the whole common law system, which it did. It's taken a half century for the logic to work out to its logical conclusion, but it basically did do that. And this is, it's creating just complete nihilism and chaos in our legal system, not just in the underworld of family law, but it's gradually seeping up through the rest of the legal system as well.
Had several conversations with plenty of these legislators, and they'll admit, like, no fault divorce is really where this thing kind of went in the opposite direction, but they will follow up with, you'll never change it. That one conversation I hear more than anything, that no fault divorce will never change. Why do you think people are so close-minded, or think that, like, look, that you're not ever going to be able to touch that issue?
Right. Well, you either touch it or the civilization is going to collapse. That's the choice. You can say that. But yes, the obstacles are formidable. There's no doubt about it. There's lots. Basically, we threw the wisdom of the ages out the window. We just decided that we were going to, abolish marriage, and that's what we did. And people became a feeding frenzy. The lawyers, the judges, the feminists, the social workers, everyone made money, expanded their operations. They basically plundered. It was basically a system of looting fathers, of looting the patrimony of children. Looting families, sometimes looting mothers as well. It's basically, the whole thing has been just a massive operation of plunder at the expense of the family. And you can say people can say that. They can say, it's just too big. The special interests are too powerful on the right as well as the left. There's nothing we can do about it. But it's the end of a civilization. You cannot have a civilization without marriage. Lots of people will admit that in the abstract. But here we have the concrete reasons for it, and we can see it. We can see it in the unraveling of justice, in our legal system, with domestic violence accusations, child abuse accusations, the child support system. The whole thing is just one injustice after another, and that's what we're dealing with. And a lot of people, I think, one thing people need to focus on. A lot of people talk about no fault divorce, and they concentrate on the breakout, the undoing of families and the ruined lives that result, and that's a good point. That's certainly understandable that they would dwell on that, because it certainly created a lot of human misery. But the larger significance of no-fault divorce is not just what it does to the family, it's what it did to the legal system and to constitutional rights and to civil liberties. It was the first time in the English common law that innocent people, no fault, through literally no fault of their own, could be hauled into court and suffered the brunt of legal penalties. It was the first time judges could summon people to court and inflict punishments on legally innocent people, people accused and convicted of no legal wrongdoing, no crime, no civil wrongdoing, nothing. An innocent person can now be taken to court and, inflicted with and punished for things that are not illegal, right? They can issue restraining orders on you, which amounts to a kind of personal criminal code that is legislated around each individual, and the individual becomes, the father usually, but sometimes the mother, becomes legally punishable for things that are not illegal for anybody else. They're only illegal for him. Now, this is obviously intolerable to allow courts to punish legally innocent people. And yet that's what no-fault justice is in the largest sense. This is absolute madness. I can forgive people they didn't understand what it was back in 1969, but we understand it now. I mean, we've seen it. We've had the experience. We tried the experiment. It's led to disaster, and we've got to simply, get that perspective, go back to where we were, and say this was a mistake from the start. It's got to be stopped, or we don't have a civilization anymore.